John Warner Public Works Department. First of all, we are required under our renewable operating permit to put this in. We have no choice. It has to be up and operational by December 31st of this year. The way the permit is worded is, once we start putting waste in a portion of the cells, we have to have an active gas system in place within 5 years of the first time waste was put in there. That'll expire this year. What this gas system does is it's collecting not only CO2, that's a minor component in the gas. The predominant component is methane, nitrogen, and that type of thing, and CO2. They're greenhouse gases, at least methane and CO2 are. So yes, we have to collect those and destroy them. We do it thermally, thermal destruction.
But once we get it to where we can send it to Eagle Valley, then it becomes a green energy, right?
Oh yes, oh yeah. Nothing's being wasted.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, I guess there's some questions of whether we're out there mining for gas. All I'm trying to do is clarify the fact that right now CO2 and that is hazardous, but if we send it there, it becomes green energy.
We're taking something that, yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't call it hazardous coming off the landfill, but we're supposed to control, by law, we have to control it and we're capture it. Instead of just burning it in our flare, which we used to do, we're sending it somewhere where they're actually using it for a good purpose and paying us for that privilege, so everybody wins.
Yeah, I just like to specify that it is a green energy. Once
It
it
is,
leaves
yes.
once
Once
it
we
leaves
capture
landfill, it's a green energy, and I think everybody should know that we're doing the right thing, not the wrong
No,
thing.
we're doing a very good thing here.
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there other questions or comments? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 3 is authorization to bid GPS.
Second.
Been moved and second to give authorization to bid for the GPS. Is there questions or comments? Alan?
When we originally bid, and was the Aljon compactor, no, we haven't found anybody to remember, but did it have it on it, or was it just compatible to have it on?
No, none of the compactors were bid to have it on there. They were bid to be compatible with it, correct? Because we knew we wanted to go this way eventually. So we made sure that whatever compactor we got would be compatible with such a system.
So no matter what, we would have had to buy it, that's why
Right.
we bought that.
Right.
Or
That is
whatever.
correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there further discussion, comments? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Number 4 is permission to send letter to MDEQ for Mosquito Creek.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to send the permission letter to Mosquito, on MDEQ on Mosquito Creek. Is there questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Number 5 is reject bids, Rudman Creek Interceptor Rehabilitation Phase 2 project.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to reject all bids on the Rudman Creek project. Are there questions, comments? Alan?
Is this like line in the sewer, a line, or put a liner inside of a line, or what does it just do?
Hello, Mark Eisenbarth, Director of Muskegon County Wastewater. Yes, it's a liner. We're relining the sewer to the Rudman Creek area. Down, we put that down in the bottom there in the 20s. So best place is to reline that instead of trying to replace it.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering why Jackson worked here, no one else was bidding on this. It must be a specialized. Okay. Very good.
Any other questions or comments? Let's do roll call.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 6 is authorization to hire 4 seasonal operators.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to give authorization to hire 4 seasonal operators. Are there questions or comments? If not, roll call, please.
Mr. Cross? Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Kellum?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Motion carried. Number 7 is the Marsh project on wastewater site.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to, I'm not sure on the phrasing, but to approve the concept of the fourth, channel through there. And Mark, if you'll explain this so that we bring everybody up to speed.
Can I turn this on here? As you all recall, that we've been working on this since 2006 to build this wetland for the flow coming from the northeast, east, and a little bit from the southeast. It helps quite a bit of the water quality. We're trying to remove sediments and phosphorus, which Mono Lake benefits from this. So we have two really large areas of land that benefits off of this wetland project. Ducks Unlimited are the ones that designed it. The drain office is the one that asked to apply for the permit. Brenda Moore's in the audience. She has done a lot of work on getting this through as well. Chuck Krebs is in the audience, representing Moreland Township, who's also been involved in quite a bit. So we have a lot of players here coming together to make this project work. As the permit was submitted to DEQ submitted it to EPA. EPA sent us a letter last month saying they rejected the project based on one part of the wetland. And what I'm going to do is the next one I bring up is going to zoom in on this area right here. That area right there is what the concern is, because in this area you'll see that there's a wetland in there. We cannot create a wetland over here and destroy a wetland over here. So now we got to look at our options. The area that would zoom in on would be that. That's the same area that I referred to. This dark area represents that wetland, and we got to get out of that wetland. Rob Zebiak is here also from DEQ, and he's been helping us figure out different options to get through this wetland to avoid disturbing that wetland. We looked at going to the north, up in here, a couple options. It just wouldn't give us far enough away, and then if we moved it way up here, we have to move a rig up, which reduces the crop, which reduces revenue, so I wasn't in favor of that as well. And also over in this area here, there was a lot of real fine sand that the ditch would have to be really wide just so the sides don't slide into the creek. We also was concerned that we'd drain this wetland. So finally we came up with another option that everybody has pretty much signed on to. And that's the same wetland we're talking about. Now we're going down to the south. We're going to pick up the flow, still pick up the flow from over here. Instead of going across like that, we're bringing it down this ditch, across, and tying it back over here to where we want to tie into. That's the best route that DEQ staff, myself, and the drain officer, and I think Chuck, you were involved in that discussion as well. That's the best route that still meets everybody's goal, is to get that water to that wetland on the west side. So the picture, what it would look like, I had that for you too. So this is taking the old one, we're in across the wetland, now we're taking it down here, running it down there. And this is where Ducks Unlimited is ready to start designing this, but we have to get approval. And then I ran it to the users committee on Tuesday, and they had several questions about the route. The first question was the additional funds to create this, because it's gonna be a longer run. Where's those funds coming from? And two, will we have them coming back to us again, asking for in-kind services? Because remember, we're already going in-kind services already. So that was a question that they had, the users committee. The other one was, when you come through here, we're still affecting some wetlands through here. We got some here, we got one in the corner. And this picture represents it very well too. See if you can see that out here.
Got to turn it one time.
All of the circles really represent a wetlands area. So we still have a wetland that we're impacting. Once you impact a wetland, there's mediation required. The mediation, there's several different options there. And I guess with your permission, I would like to have Rob discuss about mediation for us. And really what the direction mediation has, how it impacts this project. There are some things that we will have to do to come up with the offset of mitigation. So I guess we would suspend the rules for a second.
To
Suspend the rules. Second.
roll call, please.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Rob? Touch on mitigation.
Yes, Rob Zibiak, I'm with the, excuse me, I'm with the Water Resources Division for the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. The concept is mitigation. Basically, what that involves is when wetlands are negatively impacted or destroyed by a project, new wetlands have to be created to offset those damages. And that is usually done on a 1.5 to 1 ratio in an area like this. So in a project like this, the actual acreage that's being impacted is slightly unknown yet, simply because Ducks Unlimited has not done the final design of exactly where the relocated channel will cross the wetlands in a couple of spots. But the range of impacts is probably anywhere from 2 to 3 acres to probably as high as 5. I think 5 would be probably too high. But just for the sake of this discussion, let's use the worst case scenario and say it's 5 acres. So the options to mitigate for those lost 5 acres of wetlands are, one, the county could choose to create 7.5 acres of new wetland at somewhere else in the vicinity, so that would compensate for that loss. A second option is to preserve existing wetlands instead of trying to build new. And the state law requires that these existing wetlands that would be protected be very high quality, be under a demonstrable threat, and there's a host of conditions, including that the wetlands would have to be permanently protected. So what you see on the plan here is the concept of taking areas that are already owned by the county on the wastewater property and placing a permanent conservation easement over those areas. That in effect basically just says these areas will remain as they are forever. If there's 5, and when you preserve wetlands as mitigation, that is done on a 10 to 1 ratio. So again, if we have 5 acres of impacts, the area to be protected should be a minimum of 50 acres. So the areas here, what we're looking at is the wooded area here is about 37 acres in size. But remember, the new county drain is gonna go right down through the middle of that. That's probably gonna be on the order of about 5 acres that will be taken out. So we're probably looking at 32 acres, somewhere in that vicinity for that parcel. The other area in question is the actual farm dwelling itself. That area is about 20, on this drawing it says 27 acres. As of this morning, I had our GIS person look at it. I think we're probably closer to 24 and a half acres. But the department would be willing to accept a conservation easement over this farmed wetland and this wooded area as compensation for the lost wetlands from the project. Now, it's been expressed that the county did not want to lose the ability to farm in those areas. The county depends on the income from the farming to help run the wastewater system. And so the department is willing to allow, if an easement is put over this area, to allow the county to continue the farming as long as the county would own the property. At such time the county would ever sell the property or dispose of it, the easement would require that all the farming would at that point in time stop, and the wetland vegetation simply be allowed to reestablish, and it would be a fully functioning wetland. So we felt that that was something we could do to try to move this project. We've been a lot of partners working on this for a long time. We're getting down very close to a deadline from the Environmental Protection Agency of middle of August. And so we need to come up with some firm decisions. And I know that was a major sticking point for the wastewater folks, is losing that farming. So this is the proposal that has pretty much been offered. It's not the only one. It's, the county is certainly free to come up with an alternative proposal. But the bottom line is the federal government will not allow the project to go forward without that mitigation happening, some form of mitigation. So whatever impacts there are specifically to the project in terms of lost wetlands will require mitigation, whether it's building new wetlands somewhere else or preserving existing wetlands.
Thank you.
So that brings us to our final, well, there's a time easement, there's a timeline on this too. August 13th, we have to have all everything turned into EPA. But there is one other criteria that I'm looking into, and that's the Muskegon Wind LLC lease contract. Ted, I've been visiting with Ted, and we're making contact with them and making sure that by doing this other route, not even talking mitigation there, but just doing the other route where it just gets us back to that route. We want to make sure that doesn't affect their designs. And then once we get to that point, then we'll talk to them about mitigation. And another question that the users brought up was, is there any other sites besides those ones that we just had up there? So I looked into that. So there's some answers that they want to be answered, the questions they want to be answered before they would recommend to the Public Works Board to go forward with this. So my recommendation is what you see there is changed a little bit, where I like to see that we go ahead and agree with the concept. Let me go back and answer the users' questions, have a special meeting with the users, and in turn have a special meeting here on your next full board meeting, which I believe is July 31st. Bring this issue back July 31st. What that does for us, it gives DEQ the steps to move forward. It gives Ducks Unlimited the steps to move forward. It gives me the opportunity to answer the users' questions. Still bring that back to you by July 31st, and still meet the deadline by August 13th.
So we can bring it to the full board after the specials.
But I need to go out and make sure there's no other property that I've Whitehall was suggested, a couple other sites, but if they have anything to do with federal funds already, then I can't, they won't, EK won't allow us to be applied to this project.
Are there any questions? No.
The 24.41, you can't make them land different just to make it so you can get the other 5 acres into that, or would that, is that what would hinder your farming operation, or? Because this gonna become wetlands anyway, right? Because you only got a gain on 7.5 acres, I'm just wondering.
This was all studied very carefully.
I'm sure it was, and I'm just asking, you know, instead of signing.
What's this right, it's the acres right here that we're trying to make up. I could, there's one here that I can't avoid, there's one here that we could possibly avoid, over here is questionable, but this ditch here, through there, it's gonna affect the wetland, right, we can't avoid that. So there's gonna be mitigation required.
I guess my question was more like 24, the skinny push we were turning into a wetland, I gather we're doing that. You can't make that bigger. I mean, I guess it was just a question, I don't know.
Well, you'd have to change
Still
it.
need to ditch.
Yeah, we still need this, but you only have to come up with the 7.5 acres, right?
There's a lot of work.
I'm sure you guys have a lot. I'm not taking any of that away from you guys.
No.
Just signing in something forever and ever and ever is a long time too, so.
And
I mean, I agree with you totally.
The question is, I'm understanding the question is, can we make this bigger so it's considered new wetland, we only have to come up with 7.5 acres versus the 50 acres? Right?
Well,
That's right.
you really can't if we allow you to keep farming. See, the concept is when you create new wetland, it's supposed to be fully functioning wetland. We've arranged it so that the 27 acres that shows on the screen, you're going to get to continue to farm it, so it's not going to be a functioning wetland. So if you could try to create new wetland in that area, but then you're gonna have to farm around it, and I think that pretty much defeated the purpose that the wastewater folks were trying to.
I can understand.
are there any further questions? Chuck, do you have anything? We'll suspend the rules if you wanna.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to suspend the rules? Or we still are?
We still are.
Yeah, never mind.
I'm Chuck Krebs, I'm the supervisor of Moreland Township. The project, the details as a supervisor don't really impact me, but the project itself as a whole impacts my community a great deal. There is a number of drainage issues that were brought up when this project was, the wastewater project itself was put in place 40 years ago that has been impacting the property owners off-site for a long time. And by putting the ditch in, it's going to allow us to allow the drain commissioner to alleviate these drainage issues and allow the people, the private property owners on the outside, to go back to farming the property that they used to do a long time ago. That's the first one. The second one, beyond the benefits that are fairly evident for Mona Lake, for the residents of Moreland Township and the 30 square miles of property that this filter marsh is going to treat, as the rules become more stringent in the regards to surface water, and that's both the sediments and nutrients, the federal government is going to force these drainage districts and other districts to start to treat their water before the discharge. This project is on the cutting edge. It's going to take those 30 square miles and treat that water before it's discharged into Black Creek, which means that in the future, as these rules are more implemented further in society, we aren't going to be required to step up and take care of that issue. This is going to take care of it for us for a long time. And it also means that those people upstream are going to be able to continue to farm the way they've always farmed. We're going to have to put in more filter strips. It's probably going to affect the residential people in placing their septic systems and where they can set them. So at a community level, it's quite important to my community to have this thing go forward. Any questions?
Brenda, you've also worked for hours and hours on this. Is there anything you'd like to add at this point?
If you ask.
No, I just wanna express deep appreciation to Mark and Chuck and all the other partners who really tried to churn through this and make it work, because there was many tense moments of how can we make this work, and I tell you what, your staff's been awesome. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? I ask we go back to concessions and motion.
Second.
We move in second, that we go back in session. All those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed say no, we're back in session.
Someone framed the motion that, based upon Mark's recommendation.
No, but I think we need to.
It's not written on paper anywhere,
Yeah.
friendly amendment would be good.
I'd like to make the motion that we adopt the suggestion that has been made. And then somehow or other get it framed specifically with the language that will satisfy the DEQ and then satisfy the EPA.
I think it has to go back to, Mark has to get back to user group.
Well, I
So we have to correct it.
think we accept the concept and have staff working out whatever details we can, so we can have a meeting on the 31st to make a final decision.
Chair, I guess that's what I was
If I
trying
may,
to say.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, he was making an amendment, or,
Is it your motion is an amendment to the current motion?
What is the current motion then?
It is as written, yes.
maybe then I guess maybe we need to
Draw that.
vote on the first motion and then have a second motion if that's not exactly what we want. Is that proper, Ted? Okay. Did that make any sense? We need to decide whether or not what's written is what we want, or if we want to have a second one like John proposed. So I guess if there's not a question, well, can we withdraw the motion? I don't know.
Well, it's already been accepted.
It's already been seconded.
What are we trying to accomplish here? Who's gonna do all of this? Is it gonna be the drain commissioner?
No, it's gonna be Mark.
Okay,
Direct, have staff go and answer the questions that were brought up during the users committee and bring it back to you.
That's, okay, that's what I was trying to
That's
get to.
simple. Yeah. So vote this one down and direct staff to go come back with more information to resolve the
Sing that
concerns of the users committee.
Right.
That makes sense.
Who made the initial motion? Did I make the initial motion?
Mr. Collins?
I second it.
You can withdraw it, I suppose. Is that?
Guys, can withdraw it, yeah.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Now, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion I made before, to have staff come back with a proposal on July 31.
Well, we need to agree on this to get DU to start doing the numbers and stuff.
What do we need to agree to?
We need to agree on the concept of the fourth roof.
Okay. I'll agree. I'll include that as a part of the motion.
Tell us what we said, Gary.
Is to agree with the concept and allow questions to be answered by staff from the users group and bring it back to a special meeting on July 31.
With everyone's approval?
Could you say maybe the concept of the fourth alternative is
So
up
forth.
there? Moved over time.
Awesome.
Are there questions or comments on the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jaeger?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Plummer?
Yes.
And Mr. Cross?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. That is, now we have our, get through my pages here. Anyway, it's informational items that are next. Is there a motion?
We accepted this on that.
Been moved and seconded to place the informational items, are there, accept them and place on file? Are there any questions before we go?
Just,
John?
do we have the check yet?
Yeah, pleased to announce that we got a $110,000 check received on July 17th from Muskegon Wind LLC. And they will also be installing 3 Met towers. They showed me the locations, and now we're going through the schematics, really what's right around that area and how it might affect the area. So in the next month, 60 days, I expect 3 Met towers to be up and being installed at least.
Great, thank you. All right, all those in favor of accepting the monthly reports, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We'll now, so we've sort of already gone there, but is there any other old business to come before the board? Any old business? Is there any new business to come before this board? Any new business? If not, we'll move on to public comment on the new item. I have, this is from Roger Nye. Would you come up and introduce your comment, please?
Good afternoon, Roger Nye, 1495 Westwood Circle, Norton Shores. As you may have noticed, I've been attending a lot of meetings here lately, and so have other members of Occupy Muskegon and the Tea Party. Basically, I'd like to dispel a few misconceptions as to what we're all about, what we're doing. We're a very small group, actually, but no more than about a dozen people altogether. We're not endorsing any candidates. What we want to do is to educate the public and let people know what the issues are. We also want very much to learn how county government works. We've been having a hard time doing that, actually. Of course, you as shown today, obviously have to make some decisions on some very complex issues, and we respect that. But as I say, we're trying to learn, and we're going to share what we learn with the public. And basically, we do have some very specific concerns on certain subjects. We've formed coalitions with other groups on certain subjects, one of them being the jail, and de facto about fracking. We're also very concerned about the former Sappy site in Muskegon. Another issue we took up in the past was the observance of Martin Luther King Day. We, as I say, do have some very specific concerns. Basically, what we're about is trying to learn how county government works, how local government works at all stages, and it's part of thinking globally but acting locally, and that's what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next is Dave Keefe, who is a supervisor from Muskegon Township.
Dave Keefe, Jr., Supervisor of Muskegon Township and Chairman of the Muskegon Regional Water System Policy Board. I wanted to talk to the board today because Tuesday we voted on a new water contract for the city of Muskegon for 40 years. Most people are probably well aware of that. The vote was 6-2. I was one of the people who voted no. I didn't like some of the wording that was part of the contract. But history's history. That's done and it's over. Well, on Wednesday morning, I got a call from one of the other township supervisors on the Water Policy Board that last week a meeting happened with 4 members of the board, Mr. John Warner, Mr. John Snyder, Mr. Dave Bossenbrook, and me as the chairman was not invited to the meeting and had no knowledge whatsoever of the meeting. Now, I'd like either one of those 2 guys to comment and tell me what happened. Considering I wasn't invited and I wasn't there, I want to know if they're willing to tell me what did happen.
Well, if there's a question after the meeting, we don't get into discussions like that at the meeting. So, thank you for your comment. And, I don't know what to tell you because it is not something that will be a matter of business, nor
Turn it to the guy speaking.
do we allow, because it tends to get carried away.
Okay.
So afterward,
Can I talk to you?
talk with the gentleman and see what you can do.
I'll be glad to respond after the meeting.
sure you will.
Is there any other comments? Any other comments? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.